Hello again. Trying another one of my new pipes. Smoking Peterson 3Ps. It's Peterson Perfect Plug is what that stands for. I know that I'm not going to make a lot of friends by this title, but this isn't the first time I've gone live and made a video like this. I made several like this on my own Facebook profile. I seem to get positive reactions when I meet these people in person, because they're my friends on my friends list and they're people in my town and all that. So I bump into them every once in a while, and they always tell me they like my videos and they like my opinion, and that they're also pretty funny because of the stuff I say. Well, as it says, this is just my opinion on guns, firearms, whatever you want to call it. From a lot of these protest videos I've seen, I really find it pretty fucking ridiculous and really, really stupid. That's the simplest way I can put it, and I'm not going to say it any other way. Because there's so many things, these arguments that these guys get into who go to these protests and whatnot, who have an opinion to my own, similar to my own, about the Constitution and all that. And the fact when like first off, when they say stuff about the Constitution, the Second Amendment should be gone, or it should be rewritten, or there's been a couple I've seen where they say the whole Constitution should be redone. Okay, by who? You? I don't think so. No way. Because the founding fathers, I really believe they knew what they were doing. And they probably had a feeling it was going to get tested at some point by the future citizens of the nation they helped build, that they laid the foundation for, by their name. That's one of the things I always say. Mrs. Brock, like when I talk with this, especially with my dad, we have a lot of discussions about this. And some of my own personal views is stuff like, well, I don't feel if this is the foundation for if you look at the metaphor of building a house, you have your concrete foundation, the basement or whatever, what have you. I don't feel if something like the Bill of Rights and all in all, the Constitution, including the other amendments written later, added to the Bill of Rights, the original, I don't feel if that's the foundation of your house, why would you want to rebuild that when it's... Now, I don't want to argue this point when I say it is fine. Sure, there's some things that maybe in your own personal opinion or view you would disagree or want to argue or change, but that's not what you do. When you're building a house, if the structure for the most part is a stable foundation to build off of, then you wouldn't want to pull that down, especially because there is a house built on top. Well, then what's going to happen? The house is going to collapse. Pieces of the foundation are just ripped away or completely gone. So it's just like it'd be a cartoon where it just randomly will just disappear, and then it just slams into the hole where the foundation used to be. Like, if you just imagine that image, that's pretty ridiculous. But that's the image that goes into my head when they say stuff like that. That's outrageous. And okay, I didn't write anything down. Once again, it's unscripted. This is live. But just some thoughts I have in my head setting this up right now. They say stuff about military weapons, like, the M16, the AR-15, which the AR-15 technically it isn't a military weapon. It is a sporting weapon that looks really scary because it's black metal and polymer. it is a civilian version of the M16, which is a military issued rifle. But okay, all right. Here's my point with that. I thought about this earlier because I was watching one of these protest clips earlier where this guy comes up and he says that, and he said he was, I think he said like he was in Vietnam or something, or he mentioned something about that because he's talking about the M16. I always think you shouldn't need a weapon like that. But that's another point I'm going to get to after this. But by that logic, there's a bunch of others I can list off that are antiques now. Like, so I said to my dad, okay, by your logic, you know what else you might be able to have? The Springfield '03, or the Springfield model 1903. Huh? What are you talking about? The Springfield 1903 is a wood and metal 5-round internal box magazine fed system bolt action rifle. It was an infantry rifle in World War I and II, and it was in the service actually up until Vietnam, mainly used for scouting and as a sniper rifle, just out of scope. And one famous thing it's known for is being used in World War II, as in a lot of American World War II movies. But that's factual because there was the bloodiest human conflict in our history, in human history. Over 60 million dead in total. That's soldiers and civilians across the board. So you're getting into a huge conflict like that, the deadliest one in human history. You need a lot of weapons. You need a lot of firepower. Well, there was a shortage on M1 Garands, which became the standard issue rifle when we got into the war for the Army, and mainly the Army and the U.S. Marine Corps. So because of that, people who didn't get an M1 Garand got Springfields instead. That's a 30-06 round. It's the same hefty rifle round that's in the M1 Garand. Now, you say all this stuff about I'm pretty sure it's the M16 and the AR-15, so they are kind of interchangeable, but the AR-15 is a varmint rifle because it's loaded with the .223 caliber, otherwise known as the 5.56 millimeter, and I'm pretty sure the M16 has the same round. That is a varmint round. It's just a beefier version of a 22 long rifle, or maybe like a 22 Magnum. Which, yes, it is a bullet. You could be killed by it. If you actually are not an uncultured swine, then certain things like I do, where a famous way that hitmen for the mob would take you out with a 22 pistol is that they would come up behind you and then they would press it up against the base of your skull. So right where the brainstem means the skull, and they would shoot you there because that's a soft spot, and it would just go into your head and just bounce around because it's just powerful enough to penetrate, but not to create an exit wound, not usually. And that's going to kill you. 2 in the head, make sure they're dead. So it still is, yes, it still is a lethal round. It still is a cartridge. But that's not the point, because everybody, you see, that's one that everybody's okay with. All right, and okay, I'll quickly list off some other ones I can think of that were used in wars like World War II and even one. Like let's just keep it simple. Some of the well-known ones, like main like standard infantry rifles. So anything that was military issued, you basically couldn't have. So that means a Thompson, the Springfield, M1 Garand, a Gewehr, which was used by Germany, the Kar 98K and all that, and the M95, STG, MP40, Arisaka, Mosin Nagant, Lee Enfield, and then stuff like certain pistols, which nobody ever brings up, but pistols are most homicides. You know why? It's small. You can hide it. You can put it in your pants. You can put it under a coat. You can put it in your pocket. You can hide it in your holster. If you're going to be simple and professional about it, that is. So that means also stuff like, the Webley, Walther, Mauser, Luger, Colt revolver, Colt 11, which uses the same round, the 45 ACP, as the Thompson. So that one, you can get twice as many of the same bullets to load up in both guns. Very useful point, but I shouldn't have said that because that gives you guys pointers. And then there's other things like they always talk about assault rifles. Okay, so by some of those that I listed off, by that logic, well, the term machine gun and I do believe also assault rifle mainly became well known and famous, referring to those automatic weapons in World War II, such as the Thompson, and machine gun was coined by the Germans, I believe. Well, from what I was told long ago, when I was talking with somebody about this one time, because of weapons like the STG and the MP40 and all that. So that's where, like, I believe it was only the term machine gun, but, like, with these people, it's interchangeable. Just groups of shitheads. That's why I put them. Groups of just ridiculous fucking pain in the ass people. Yeah, you're entitled to your opinion, but you see, there's another thing. So all the other amendments are okay, but the only one that's outdated is the second one because of guns. Like, oh, that only meant muskets and hunting, even though that was common practice. And there was guns like the Duckfoot, which was a ridiculous multi-barrel, so it literally looked like that. But it was because it was called a Duckfoot because it like resembled like a webbed, like a duck's foot. But it was like 5 or 6 barrels spread out, kind of like fingers, like a hand, like this. So you could shoot multiple shots at once, and it would spread and all that. And then there's also other ones like the Puckle gun, which was basically a revolving system, like musket or flintlock, whatever. And those were around the time that the Declaration and the Constitution were signed. So bother to do some legitimate research, historical stuff, like I have before, then you will find that it is completely invalid and is a lot of horse shit if you say that. And basically with that point, so all these other ones, and they didn't also think of the invention of electricity, cars, the internet, phones. All that stuff's fine, but guns, no, just muskets. Bull crap. That's what I say. Yeah, and there's been other videos that I've seen where guys, same as me, who are fed up with this, have shown on the shooting range how something like with these shootings, a more effective weapon wouldn't be a rifle, or an AR. No, a shotgun. You know why? It doesn't take bullets. Unless if it's solid slug, which still will put a hell of a hole in you. Big one. But mainly, when someone uses a shotgun, they put regular shells through it, which are filled with these little lead balls, pellets. And when it shoots, it makes a wide cone where those pellets fly through the air and they spread out as they fly. So you can hit a wider area with just one blast of a shell with a shotgun. So it's a real cloud pleaser or street sweeper. and there's plenty of automatic and pump shotguns, and there's a lot of pump action shotguns like the famous 1897 trench gun, which is also another weapon that apparently you can't have because it was used. It's famous for being used by the military, especially when it was first used in World War One. The German Austro-Hungarian Empire actually protested its use by the Americans because it was so effective and the internal injuries it would cause because it's spread shot with pellets. So it's tearing up a lot of stuff and making it into mincemeat. Also, because of the pump action of that specific shotgun, it's automatic where you can basically slam fire it, where all you have to do is hold the trigger down and just keep pumping the action, and it will unload all the shells in a smooth, fast motion, almost as if it was automatic. Yeah. And so many of these points have already been made over 1,000 times each, which almost makes it feel like it was damn near pointless making this now that I think about it. But no, because a few things I just said I feel needed to be addressed because I didn't see anybody else saying it. Also, a lot of these foreigners, like in these European countries, they always bring that up. Well, they never bring up, so they cherry pick and they slide it like the two-faced bastards they are to their advantage very poorly. Because it just takes a simple search, of course, where places like Australia, well, private gun ownership has gone up since that callback, which was only over 300,000. And most of those were just collections. They were just collector's items, old shotguns and rifles for hunting. Not, assault rifles and all that. Plus, there's things, like I said, with handguns. Also, you have to put up you also have to deal with the fact that nobody ever brings it up when they always say England. No, you can't do that. Here's why. Because over there, they just beat each other to death. And, their fists, glass, blades, bats, or any kind of blunt object, or in bricks. So violent crime is still very high. It's just not firearm based. So it really didn't do anything except for change what weapons are being used. That's all it did. And in a weird kind of way, some people would say, would almost act like when I brought that up, in school, they acted just the way that they talked, their tone. It seemed like they were almost okay with that. So you're okay, so I almost wanted to ask them, so you seem okay with the idea of someone being stabbed to death, but it's okay just because they weren't shot with a gun. If that was the case, I probably would have gotten assault charges because I probably would have bitch slapped them. Because that is a travesty. And that is very deplorable, in my opinion. That's what it always comes down to, isn't it? And for the record, I don't have a gun. I don't own one. I have fired a few. The highest caliber was a 45. I could handle it quite well. But with what I've just pointed out, bottom line, if a human wants to kill another human, they're going to find a way. If they have to do it with a gun, a blade, fire, a car, or damn near, if it comes down to it, their bare hands. That's what everybody mocking sarcastically says, just like I do, where it's like, Cain killed Abel with a rock, so we should ban all rocks. And yes, I do. And then some things that annoy me with stuff like just on the Second Amendment is how they say, they say in like kind of mockingly like, oh well regulated militia. They just quote that part, but you don't understand. And then there's been plenty of other people who chewed those guys' ass out, who leave like a YouTube or a Facebook comment saying that they only say the first part. The first part, and it shows how slight it is. No. A well-regulated militia, it has the right to bear the right of the people to bear arms. So it says militia, but then down, just like a sentence later, it says the right of the people. So it's saying that the people are the militia. And people don't seem to understand. It says militia. You do understand that civilians are militia. It's a posse. It's just a group of civilians arming themselves. That's it. That's well-regulated militia. And you know what? Yeah, I'm getting kind of tired, and I feel I made all the points I could think of right now. Basically, I wouldn't say I'm like anti-gun or pro-gun or any of that crap. Well, clearly anti-gun. No, what I believe in, I'll end with this. I believe when it comes down to it, we should have charity and tolerance towards one another and mutual respect when it's shown between two people, one to the other. When it's given to you, then you can give it back. Mutual respect. But you should also honor the laws and the beliefs of your people that have been written by those for them. So in this case, the Constitution, all of it. Because if you take one away, then the rest will eventually falter and fall and crumble. It will come apart. Because then they'll find fault with other ones. That's not going to happen. And yes, when it comes down to it, I do believe in peace, but I wouldn't say I'm a full pacifist. I'm a pacifist until it comes to the point when you're pushed up against the wall and there's no other choice made, and your hand will be dealt. And you do need to defend those you care about, your country, your people, with weapons, most effectively. That is what I believe. Only when it comes down to it. Foreign or domestic war, combat. That is what I believe. Now, that is a scary thought, but that is why I feel this should be something that needs to be left alone. This should be, in case of emergency, break glass. But bottom line, I feel that I should be allowed to have the same type of weapon that a soldier uses, because they are a citizen as well. And just because they were a soldier doesn't give them any more right than myself to wield something like an M16 or an AR-15 or whatever the hell you want to call it. I have just as much right, or actually even more so, because they protected my right to have that assault weapon. And with that, I think I'll be done. And I forgot to say last time, but you know, if you like this, click the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe if you want to. I know I'm pretty. I only have so many videos and all that, but I plan on making this a more regular thing when I have something to talk about. But until then, like I said, like, subscribe, comment, whatever, and I will see you later.